Hi guys, and welcome to today's Dear session. We are reading The Highland Falcon Thief, written by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgman, illustrated by Eliza Paganelli. Published by Pan Macmillan UK, who have very kindly given us the permission to read this book and for me to share it with you during this time indoors. Chapter 8. A Royal Stowaway. After breakfast, Hal got up, brushing the crumbs from his lap. "I'm going to see if anyone wants to play darts with me." He grabbed his sketchbook and slid his biro down the spine. "Would you mind if I didn't?" Uncle Nat lifted his journal out from his case. "I have work to do, documenting last night's departure." "No, that's fine," Hal smiled, holding up the sketchbook. "If no one wants a game of darts, I'll draw." "We'll be passing Dundee soon, crossing over the Tay. There's a grand view from the bridge. Keep an eye out." "I will." Hal slipped the book into the back pocket of his jeans. "And if you have any trouble from Mr. Pickle, you come and get me. I'll keep out of his way. You'd better stay away from Lady Lansbury's dogs, too." Hal closed the door behind him, took 5 paces forward, paused, and then tiptoed backwards, turning and running towards the royal carriages. "There is a jewel thief on this train," he whispered to himself, "and I know exactly where she's hiding." As he ran, Hal thought about Amy delivering that tray of food. Was she the thief's accomplice? If so, the girl, and possibly the stolen jewels, were in that royal carriage. If he caught the thief and found the jewels, he might get the reward mentioned in the paper. Then I could definitely get a dog. Putting his fingers into the brass niche of the connecting door to the royal carriage, he slid it sideways. The runners were well oiled and made no sound. Slipping through, his heart pogoed about in his chest as he tiptoed across the spongy carpet to the spot where Amy had left the tray. He pressed his ear to the door, but the beating of his heart was so loud he couldn't hear anything. He turned the handle silently. The room was dark. He smelt talcum powder and perfume. He saw a double bed, its covers rumpled. On the bedside table was a half-full glass of orange juice. Hal stepped into the room, treading on playing cards laid out in columns. Someone had been playing patience. The compartment was empty. He pulled out his sketchbook, sat on the edge of the bed, and drew a quick diagram of the layout of the room. There was a click as the door swung shut behind him. "Gotcha!" a voice shouted. Hal nearly jumped out of his skin. Standing in front of the door, dressed in a black t-shirt and blue dungarees, her arms folded across her chest, was the girl who had stuck her tongue out at him. Strapped around her hips was a tool belt. He could see a spanner, 2 screwdrivers, and a Swiss Army knife. That's how she got into Lady Lansbury's compartment, Hal thought. She picked the lock. "No, I've caught you," Hal said, shoving his sketchbook into his back pocket. The girl, who was taller than Hal, fixed him with a defiant stare. "Who are you? And what are you doing creeping into my compartment?" "It's not your compartment. It's the royal family's. No one's allowed in here." "You're in here." The girl cocked her head. "And I caught you creeping into the royal carriage without permission. You're going to be in deep trouble." "Yeah? Well, you're going to jail." Hal held out his hand. "Give me the brooch and the earrings, and I'll tell the police that you came quietly." The girl frowned. "What?" "The jewels that you stole last night from Mrs. Pickle and Lady Lansbury." "There's been a theft." Hal nodded. "They're going to tell the police when we get to Balmoral." "Ah, nuts." The girl cursed under her breath. "It'll be much better for you if you give yourself up now." The girl rolled her eyes. "Ugh, I'm not a thief, you idiot." "I'm not an idiot." "You are if you think I'm a thief." "Why are you hiding if you're not a thief?" "I'm a stowaway." "A what?" Hal faltered. He hadn't expected her to say that. "I wasn't going to miss the Highland Falcon's last journey, but Dad said no children were allowed on the train." She looked at Hal accusingly, although that obviously isn't true. "I wasn't supposed to be coming," Hal said. "My uncle brought me because my mum's in hospital." "Is she sick?" "Yes. No, she's having a baby." Hal felt his chest get tight. He didn't want to talk about his mum. "You're a stowaway. How did you get on the train?" The girl screwed up her eyes, regarding him with suspicion. "You have to promise not to tell." "Tell who? What?" Hal blinked. I don't know anything. Dad would get into trouble. He could lose his job." "The waitress who brought you food knows." "Amy?" "Yeah, she's cool. She can keep a secret." I can keep a secret. Swear it. Say, I... What's your name? Harrison Beck. Say, I, Harrison Beck, swear with my breath and my spit never to tell anyone Lenny is on the Highland Falcon. Lenny? It's short for Marlene. She leaned towards him. You got a problem with it? Hal shook his head. Good. Right, say it. I, Harrison Beck, swear with my breath and my spit never to tell anyone Lenny is on the Highland Falcon. Lenny spat on her hand and held it out for him to shake. Hal grimaced as the warm saliva rubbed between their palms, sealing the promise. My dad is the train driver, she said, proudly wiping her hand on her dungarees. Mahanjit Singh, the best steam engine driver in the country. Your dad's the driver? Hal was impressed. So he let you get on the train? No, he'd never break the rules. The whole family drove up to Buckinghamshire, where the royal train is kept, to wave Dad off. After I hugged him goodbye on the footplate, I told Mum that he'd changed his mind and had said I could come. I hid in the tender on the way to London. When we got to King's Cross, I owned up. She grinned and jumped up onto the bed, bouncing up and down. Her long black plait whipped about like a crazed snake. I knew Dad'd have to let me come on the trip then. I couldn't go all the way back to Torquay on my own. Wasn't he angry? A bit, she shrugged, but he feels the same way about trains as I do. They're in our blood. Lenny dropped onto her bottom, and a toy mouse flew up out of the chest pocket of her dungarees. She grabbed it and stuffed it back in. Is that a teddy? Hal scoffed. How old are you? I'm 12 in 3 months. Lenny glared at him. And it's not a teddy, it's Penny Mouse. Dad gave it me the first time he let me ride on the footplate of the Highland Falcon, so I thought she should come too. How old are you? I'm 11. Hal sat down beside her. And I've got a toy puppy called Pew back home, because I'm not allowed a real dog. He smiled sheepishly. I didn't mean to laugh at your mouse. Can I see it? Lenny handed him the mouse. Its nose was a clump of black stitching gathered around horsehair whiskers, and it had a strip of black leather for a tail. She lives in loco tenders and eats cheese. When I was little, I used to suck her tail. Ugh, gross! Hal gave it back. So, tell me about this jewel thief, Lenny said, swinging her legs off the side of the bed. Hal reached into his back pocket, took out his sketchbook, and pulled out the front page of Ernest White's newspaper. Last night, someone stole Lydia Pickle's diamond brooch. Then this morning at breakfast, Lady Lansbury said that someone had broken into her compartment and stolen her pearl earrings. I think this thief who's been stealing jewels from high society parties, he pointed at the article, and the train thief could be the same person. Whoa! Lenny took the article. It says here they stole a ruby ring right off someone's finger. There's a reward for whoever catches the thief. It's £10,000. Lenny shook her head, looking unimpressed. That's not enough to buy a steam loco. You want to buy a train? Not just any train. I want a streak. An A4 Pacific. £10,000 wouldn't even get you the nameplate from a classic engine. You're odd. No, I love trains. Lenny looked at him. Don't you? I've never really thought about them. Hal looked about. I suppose this one's quite cool. Quite cool? Lenny looked disgusted. You get to go on the final journey of one of the greatest trains ever built on an A4 Pacific, the train that holds the world land speed record for steam, and you think it is quite cool? She shook her head. There's something wrong with you. She jumped to her feet and grabbed his hand, pulling him up off the bed. Come on,